complicated. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken. If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it, it's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word is self-approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences, let love heal all that's broken.
And shalom aleichem to each and every one of you. So glad to have you here today. This is yours truly, Apostle V.W. Jones Sr. We're right here on what is known as the proceeding word. And today, because of the time that we're in, the season that we are in, I proclaim Pesach. I choose to proclaim Pesach because it is a commandment and a charge of Elohim. You know, we sing a song in our Christian faith for so many years through typical tradition, and it says that, you know, a charge to keep I have, and a God to glorify. Well, you can't get a better charge than what Yahweh has given unto us in the process of the feasts, which are found in the book of Leviticus chapter 23. And those feasts, many of them are upon us right now. We're entering into the one feast season of Pesach. We are in already the month of Nisan. This is something dynamic.
I can't hear you on Clubhouse.
I don't know. Clubhouse is tripping. I'm not on mute, guys. I'm sorry. I don't know how to fix it. I'm not on mute, so I don't know what Clubhouse is doing. All right. Hold on, guys. Let's see what happens. Can you hear me now? Clubhouse, can you hear me? If I leave quietly, come back in. I can't even leave quietly. All right, let's come back in now. All right, I'm coming back in. Can y'all hear me now? Can you hear me now?
No. Now we do, sir.
All right. Clubhouse is tripping. I think this is going to be the last year we do this. We'll have our own app or whatever for this to be done. Well, moderators, please bring up our people that are there necessary. And remember what we're talking about. For those of you viewing with us live stream on the YouTube and or on the Facebook live feed, please YouTube subscribe, Facebook like the page, like the program. Both of you make comment and hit the bell for notifications if you're on YouTube, so you can be notified when we go live, as well as Facebook like the page so you can be notified when we go live. But in any event, we are in the proceeding word. It is a dynamic time, a great place, a great space to be in. I want to make sure I can help all of you understand what we've been here for, why we do what we do. And this is a season where we are going to put things into perspective because of the season that we are in. And so we were joking about, for Clubhouse, you guys couldn't hear us. What we were joking about was the, what was the statement? We were joking about a charge to keep I have, and a God to glorify. First off, it's not a God. I really don't like when we do that. It's not a God to glorify, right? In light of it, and in this respect, in light of that statement, and in this respect, it's not a God to glorify. I know they didn't mean it in the sense that they were putting him in a cachet of, you know, one of the gods I got in this box I'm going to glorify. You know, I know they didn't mean it that way, but it comes off that way. And the enemy of our faith would like for us to keep it that way in our ignorance and not make it very clear, delineate. This is not a God. This is the Elohim. the creator of heaven and earth, not a creator and a not pardon me, not a creating element, not a collaborated artist. The way we say that, a God to glorify, is as if he's one of the gods, basically a polytheism, as would be suggested in Greek mythology and Catholicism and other forms of multiple God worshiping, most multiple divine worshiping Godheads. We are not that. We are the God of Elohim, the God Elohim. Though that word Elohim is plural, it is still the plurality of the Elohe, which is the creator of heaven and earth and all that therein dwells. All the gods we made up in our minds. Y'all didn't get that. All the gods we fathom, we constructed, we put together, we caused to be our divinities, the gods we made of another, of another level, of another power. But there is only one creator of heaven and earth, and that is Elohim, El Elyon, El Shaddai. Many names for his attributes, but the same Elohim. He is not a God. He is the God of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Yaakov. He is the God that created Adam and then pulled Ishai from within and gave the galaxy and gave the heavens and gave the stars and gave the moon and gave the waters and gave all the atmospheres, everything you see, every black hole you hear, the Hubble telescope telling you about, all these different things. He made all of that. If you want to say there's aliens out there, he made the aliens too. This is not a God to glorify. This is the God of creation. He did give us charge. He gave us multiple charges. And in that, we now need to understand you are in a day of one of those charges. We are being charged to proclaim Pesach. Don't believe me? Well, we're on the preceding word. Man does not live by bread alone, but by every word that has the creative power to do whatever we need. Man lives by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. So we want to make it very clear how to approach this and what it looks like in this given day, because we are approaching the season where David sang a song. I was glad when they said unto me, let us go into the house of Yahweh. And that's the time you are approaching. April 21st. 2024, this particular year, is Nisan 14. It is a day that Elohim tells us to proclaim before it gets here, and even more as the day approaches. As well, he tells us to attend in compliance to his charge. Let's talk about that. Before we get going, I want to have a word of prayer with you. Actually, let me give you an announcement. No announcements. We're just going to get right into it because we are in what we call to be Shabbat in certain parts of the world. And so we want to make sure that they get opportunity to embrace Torah and a concept from Torah that is Torah for the purpose of knowing Elohim, being still in the day, and knowing Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Be still and know that I am God. That's what the passage says in English, but that's what it means in Hebrew. Be still, Shabbat, rest, and know Yahweh, your Elohim. You do that by sitting still in Shabbat. And when you sit still in Shabbat, which many have entered into, we will be entering into the seventh day Shabbat. But all this time of sitting together, we will be learning about the Moedim Shabbat, the high holy day Sabbath that is upon us in just a few days. If anybody is excited, I want you to come off mic. I know you're on your lunch break. I know you're sitting at your desk, at your church, at your job, whatever you're doing. If you're on Sabbath, I want you to come off and charge your atmosphere with your voice And let everything listening, trolling, watching you from a distance, the enemy, Yahweh's going to make a meal before you and for you in the presence of your enemy. I want you to come off mic. I want you to say it where you are. If you're not on Clubhouse, or maybe you're on Facebook, maybe you're on YouTube, maybe you're on IG, wherever you may be, I want you to say these words with your mouth. Say, I proclaim Pesach. Ready? 1, 2, 3. I proclaim Pesach. Do you know the enemy of your faith right now is livid because it realizes you understand with expectation where you are, what you're about to have happen, and what's going on in your world. The enemy cannot. That's what I love about the word of Elohim. And I love making the connections for the typical everyday average Christian and the avid student of the Bible, because when you proclaim and you keep that charge, the God of Avraham, Yitzhak, and Jacob, the God of Israel, El Elohe Israel, your El Elyon, your El Shaddai, he is glorified because you have spoken his words he gave you into this atmosphere, and now the atmosphere is expecting his arrival. That's what this is about. I love that Elohim operates in the realm of expectancy of his servants. Somebody shout, I'm your servant, Yahweh. Just say it. Say, Yahweh, I'm your servant. Oh, I know y'all don't want to be embarrassed. Y'all at your cubicle, you got to just duck down and cover the mic like this and say, Yahweh, I'm your servant. And when you do that, you're still speaking it in the atmosphere. The enemy of faith hears it, can't stop it, no matter what you do. But if you just keep it in your head and you say, well, God knows I'm his servant. No, he knows your heart, but don't let it stay in your head. You have to express this from your mouth. That's why the Bible says, if you believe that Yahweh raised Yeshua from the dead. Y'all gonna work with me on this because I'm excited. If you believe that Yahweh raised Yeshua from the dead, I want you to say Pesach. Come on, you ain't got to come off mic, so I'm not gonna worry about how many of y'all don't come on mic and be heard. But I want you to do it where you are. And when you speak the word of Elohim, every work of the enemy, every dark effort to entrap you, every dark effort to trip you up, every dark effort to kidnap you, every dark effort to sabotage you, every dark effort to put you into depression, every time you speak the word of Elohim, darkness has to back up off of you. Did you realize that? That's why I want y'all to speak it. Somebody say Pesach. If you don't believe it in your heart and you just saying it, it still will work. But I want you to understand, when you believe this in your heart and you speak it from your mouth, that Yahweh raised Yeshua from the dead, you are safe. What have we been doing? Well, probably way too much, but it's okay as long as now you look to understand it. When you believe in your heart, do y'all know that he says that in Romans 10? When you believe in your heart and confess with your mouth this, then you are saved. You live in a voice-activated kingdom. When you speak his word creates in your environment. That's like giving you seed, but you not planting it in the ground and expecting the fruit of that seed to manifest. We're in the spring season. You ain't got to say it, but I hope you will say it. And somebody type it in for me all over YouTube and Facebook and say, I'm in the planting season. I'll do it.
I'm in the planting season.
I'm in the planting season.
Yes. I'm in the planting of his word season. And when you speak his words, which came by his son, then Ruach HaKodesh, 50 days from the 16th of Nisan, hearkens to those words to perform them. You got to understand, when we talk about being of a voice-activated kingdom, some of y'all are like, what the heck is he talking about? Delete, move on, swipe, pass on, scroll down. It's good. But when you understand you live in a voice activated kingdom, you live in a voice activated world, you live in a world where what you say is what you literally will in some way, shape, or form begin to manifest. The problem is where it's manifesting from is the blessing or the curse. You're going to get the item, but you got to understand it comes with a cost. So when you are talking about manifesting this and manifesting that, and if it does not come from the word of Elohim, if it does not come from a charge to keep, I have, then that thing getting to you will have a price that will cost you your life. I'm real cool with telling y'all that. Because we want so much that's not his will, and then we talk it and speak it and focus on it and then put it on our vision board and post it on our refrigerator and put it in on our rear view mirror of our car and put it in our briefcase, our attaché case, put it in our Birkin bag, put it in our MK bag, put it on the back of our book bag, whatever we do to keep it in our forefront, but it ain't the will of Elohim. And then when it does come to us, we don't realize it came from a different bank account, and you don't want no parts of that bank account, because evil does have a way of paying you to keep you from salvation. So when you live according to the will of the Father, you speak his word. David says, your word I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. When you speak his word, when you believe Yahweh raised Yeshua from the dead, that's Pesach. Some of you can even say and get by with it and say the finished work of Calvary. It's cool, it's fine, but we're going to take you deeper. We don't need to stay out there at that shallow level of the pool. We don't have to be in the baby end of the pool. We don't have to be drinking and eating the pureed food. It's time to drink no longer milk, but start to eat the steak and that which gives us a deeper level of protein. I need you to understand this. When you speak what Elohim's word says, Elohim is able to make manifest in your life. And this that he manifests, because it's his word, gives you life. It doesn't cost you your life. I said what he said. Yeah, that's it. Keep proclaiming Pesach. I know it's a hard thing to follow and swallow because it's not the typical Christian jargon and narrative, but we are in the season that we are to be proclaiming his word, his will, his name, his way. We have to proclaim that. It's not just going to happen by osmosis. It's not going to just happen because you thinking about it. You have to speak it. You have to participate. I must first be a participant in order to get what I'm expecting from Elohim. If I do what he say do, then he'll do what he say do. But if I read what he's capable of doing and hope he will do it, there's no guarantee and he's going to do it. But if I do the thing I read he could do and then do it and introduce it into my world his way, then he's obligated to perform. That's why we call him Yahweh. But if you don't do your part, he has no part in it, because he's sitting there waiting to bless, but can't bless because you have not followed the instructions. Somebody say, just follow the instructions. Just follow the instructions. Just follow the instructions. And when you understand that when I proclaim the day, Yahweh will do this. If I don't proclaim the day, Yahweh can't do this. Though I read what he's capable of, though I read what he wants to do for you, for me, if I don't do what he says to get it done, it can't make it to my door. That's just not going to happen. But if I don't do what he says do, then I give the enemy space to play on my mind, play with my emotions, play with my feelings, get in my head, make me come up with my own righteousness and do a whole bunch of things that I'm going to say, well, I'm going to do this for God. I'm going to do this my way. And because it's me, I'm so special. God going to take it. He going to accept it. I'm going to do what I want to do when I want to do it. But when I do it, I'm going to tell him it's for him and he going to be good with that. Because it's me. I'm his child. I'm God's child. All of us are Elohim's creation. All of us are Elohim's child. But his sons and daughters, yeah, they're the ones who obey the Father. Pausing for effect. Somebody say, follow the instructions.
Follow the instruction.
Follow the instruction.
All right. Okay. So we're talking about Pesach, right? We're going to get into Pesach right now. Somebody say, follow the instructions. Say, follow his instructions.
Follow his instructions.
If I can get that same group of people to proclaim Pesach right now and push the enemy back in your life, proclaim Pesach. What happens when you cut the light switch on in a dark room you just entered into? When you cut that light switch on, light emanates and darkness is pushed back. When you proclaim his word, whatever darkness was hovering over you, shadowing around you, clouding over you, you know, things like depression, oppression, feeling low, not feeling energy, gloomy, sickly. When you proclaim Pesach, you bring the light of his word, the light of his creativity, the light of his artistic element for your life into your life. You receive the energy from that sunlight of his word. You receive the necessary elements to heal you, to bring you to a soundness of mind, to enter into your life his shalom. All you need to do, all I've learned to do, which I'm so grateful for learning, is that when I proclaim his word, my atmosphere shifts. No, not ain't he good? Won't he do it? Yeah, he will. Not that. That's praise. That's not it. But when I proclaim his word, Pesach, that's just, that Pesach alone is filled with healing. It's filled with restoration. It's filled with a recompense. It's filled with reparations. It's filled with freedom. Hallelujah. It's filled with him beating my enemy who held me down. It's filled with Elohim stepping over me, giving me mercy, and then telling me, eat this meal and go run on. See what the end gonna be. When I proclaim Pesach, when I proclaim Shavuot in this season, in his time, in his way, he obligates himself to show me the way. When I comply with the instructions of Elohim, he will in fact keep his word. Did you know what that meant? When I proclaim his word, he comes to his word to keep it and say, oh, you said this? This is accounted to you for saying it. That's why, did y'all know, can I blow your mind? Because this is not going to appeal to everybody because we've had so many people drop in and out. Can I blow your mind? Remember when Abraham had his faith accounted to him for righteousness? Do you know why it was accounted to Abraham for righteousness? Because whatever Yahweh told Abraham without the Torah, without the Bible, you and I got the Bible. He didn't have it. He's hearing Elohim. But what he heard Elohim say prior to the Torah, which tells us systematically and in a way of perpetuity what Elohim wants and what Elohim says, Abraham didn't have that. He's listening to Elohim. And Elohim says to him, whatever he tells him, Abraham reminds him of. And Elohim counted that unto Abraham for righteousness' sake. That's how Abraham was blessed. He held the word. He kept the word. He understood to recite the word. You said you're going to do it. I'm trusting you for it. I don't know how it's going to get done. Saraya got an ideal. I got an ideal, but we need you to. And Abraham would repeat to Elohim what he says, and it was accounted unto him for righteousness. Now, my theologian says, see, you said something weird the other night. You saying something weird again today. Nope, I promise you. Go read this one. I can show it to you. So what we got to understand is when you begin to be compliant, when you begin to be a regurgitator of his word, Elohim keeps his word. I'll say it again. When you regurgitate the word he gave you, Elohim then keeps it when it comes out of you. And when he keeps it, that means he performs it. That's why you got the Holy Spirit. He hastens to the word to perform it. Just like Genesis 1, when he created the heavens and the earth, Elohim said, let there be light, and there was light. Elohim said, bring forth, and whatever was brought forth. Elohim said, let's make man. Well, here you and I are today. See, you live in a voice activated kingdom. You can't think God to do something for you. You must believe that he is and a rewarder of them that diligently seek for him. Because when you seek for him, that means you're willing to obey him. And once you obey him, once you begin to speak what he says to speak, once your language becomes his language, once your will becomes his command, then he can move on your behalf. And you ain't got to worry about hocus pocus. You ain't got to do no weird rituals with smoking cigars and throwing out chicken feed and shooting some dice and all that other stuff. Now, mind you, there was a Uman and a Thuman. I'm not unaware of that. That was a real thing from the breastplate, but that had a different meaning than what you guys or what we're seeing being done in other faith systems who mimic that scenario. And at the end of the day, Elohim is not into a whole bunch of conjuring up of what his power can do. All you have to do is obey his word, comply with his instruction. It does the work for you. There's a saying that used to be said in a program I used to be in. Yeah. It was called AANA, right? And they would use this phrase, it works when you work it. Okay, I do not disrespect the program. I think it's helping. It has helped. It helped me to come to a place of stability in life many decades ago, and been free forever since. However, at the end of the day, it really works when you work it. I'm not talking about the program. I'm stealing a mantra from the program, which is probably most associated to the will and the gospel of Yeshua HaMashiach. When you work the gospel works for you. But you got to work the gospel. You can't work you and then add the gospel to it. You have to work the gospel and it will tell you what to do. And when you're doing what he says do, all of Deuteronomy 28, 1-14 falls on you. If you hearken diligently unto the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, spoken, the voice of Yahweh your Elohim, and if you will observe, read, and then do all that you have seen from the voice, then all these blessings that are in verses 2-14 will follow you and overtake you, because the word is guiding you on your path. The word is directing you on your way, and it's moving you, walking you into blessings. It's not going to walk you into a trap of the enemy. When you are obeying the word and proclaiming the word, Elohim now is guiding your footsteps. Your word I hid in my heart that I might not sin against you. Your word is a lamp unto my feet and a light unto my pathway. When you walk in the word, proclaim the word, you bring the light to your dark world. All of us were born into sin. Therefore, we were born into darkness, and it is the word that becomes our lamp. I can't explain this no better than that. But to hear it like this, off rip, without a whole lecture, most people say, oh, that's some folly, some craziness. Don't believe that. Just say Jesus and everything is fine. No, Jesus couldn't even say Jesus and everything was fine. y'all didn't. Jesus couldn't even say Jesus and everything was fine.
That's a good one, sir.
Thank you, Prophet. Jesus couldn't even say Jesus and everything was fine. Just say Jesus and talk to Skiva. Skiva said Jesus, got his butt beat, almost got his sons killed. He said Jesus. Y'all think I'm being mean, don't y'all? My point is, you have to do what Yeshua did. Yeshua obeyed the word, and wherever the word led him, he walked. He walked into the ability to bring folk into healing. He walked into the ability to feed folk, thousands of folk, with just 2 fish and 5 loaves. Multiple times he walked into areas where he could literally walk on the elements of the earth, like water, walk through walls. Did you know he not did that? Do you not know he did that? Just read the Brit Hadassa. Go read the Synoptic Gospels. Read how he lived. Read when they attacked him, how he disappeared. Read how he was sitting there and they were in a room locked in and he just entered into the room. So when you obey the word and you proclaim the word and you comply with the word, Elohim has the word lead you into all righteousness, lead you into all blessings, lead you into all good. Somebody say it's all good with the word.
It's all good with the word.
It's all good with the word.
And so when you're not working and walking in the word, then you're subject to the elements that are contrary to the word, i.e. anti. Messiah, i.e. anti-God. Oh, you know it this way, Antichrist. That's why Antichrist already exists, because anti the word is anti the word. The word is pro. We should be pro word, not anti word. That spirit of not being in the word already exists in the world. Now there will be a manifestation in a form of the epitome of anti the word, Antichrist, that you're going to see at an appointed time. But you must understand the spirit of anti the word, Antichrist, you call it, already exists. Every time you disobey him, it is Antichrist. Every time I walk outside and don't do what his words say do, I'm Antichrist. You are Antichrist. We are Antichrist. We were born into this world, and because of Adam's sin, Antichrist. Oops. Now, this is why Pesach is so important, because it puts us back into pro word. Now, Christos, Christ, is the word translated from the Hebrew into Greek and now into English. And it was the word that is supposed to translate was called the word Mashiach. Mashiach is the Isaiah 9:6 manifestation, child born, son given. That is the power of Elohim in a flesh suit. But the power of Elohim is his word. And when you honor his word, you do his word creates. Everything that you and I see, feel, taste, experience is because of the word. That's why man doesn't live by just what the word made and we got used to, bread, because his word can make bread out of something else you never knew possible. That's why man does not live by bread alone, but by every word, which is the creative power of Elohim. That's what living by his word means. So Zion, Pesach brings us back into a place where the word becomes our aid. So in Pesach, Moshe, on Exodus chapter 6, chapter 12, the children of Israel follow the instructions immaculately to the detail. And they take on the 10th day the lamb. They take it on the 14th day. They kill the lamb. They bleed the lamb of its blood. They smear the blood on the doorpost and lintels of the place where they're going to have the meal. They broil, broiler, not boil, broil. They roast with fire that very same lamb. They eat that lamb in the house the blood has been placed on. They eat it with bitter herbs. They eat it with the unleavened bread. And then they eat it dressed to go, already prepared to move, staff in their hand, shoes on their feet, cap on their head, hoodie on their back, clothes already packed. They are dressed to go, and they eat the lamb dressed like that in uniformity in the building with the blood on it. And that blood, when seen by Elohim, he would pass over that house. So they followed the instructions of Elohim to the T. Y'all know what happened when they followed the instructions of Elohim to the T? They were set free. Wow. I want that to be a quote. When you follow Elohim's instructions to a T, like Moshe, you'll be set free. I like that. Y'all like that? That was pretty good. I like that myself. I'm going to use that. When you follow Elohim, I'm going to say it again. When you follow Elohim's instructions to a T, you will be set free. Israel in Egypt, Exodus chapter 12, 10th day, selected the lamb. Did y'all know that yesterday you're in the 10th day? Today at sundown, wherever you are on the planet, you enter into the 11th day. But presently, everybody in the world is in the Torah calendar of Nisan 10. You have selected your lamb. Now, those of you who know what that means, you have now the ability to get your lamb in. So from the 10th to the 14th, you select your lamb, but on the 14th, we kill the lamb. The 14th will be Sunday, April the 21st at sundown. All right. And I want y'all to get this because this is what we're helping you to prepare for when we talk about this feast season. Now look at the screen. If you guys are looking on YouTube and on Facebook, look at it. I know you turned it up so you can hear it, but look at it. Today is literally the 10th of Nisan, not the 14th. But on Sunday, which will be April the 21st, today is the 19th of April. The 21st will be on Sunday at sundown. Not Sunday at 10 a.m. or 9 a.m. at sundown. I believe sundown is going to be like 7:55 in the East Coast. Sundown for those of you in China will be 6:59. Those of you in Johannesburg, South Africa, it should be around 5:46, around about that time. Those of you in Uganda should be around 6:52 or so. Those of you in Accra, Ghana, should be around 6:08 p.m. Those of you in London, UK, should be around 8:08 p.m. Some of you in LA, it'll be like 7:28 p.m. your time. In Houston, it'll be 7:53 your time. In Texas, the Central Standard Time. In East Coast, it'll be somewhere around 7:45 to 7:55, depending on what city you're in. So when sundown comes on Sunday, we kill the lamb. So this is the instruction. And then the next day, Nisan the 15th, will be April the 22nd at sundown. And that will begin the feast season of Hag Matzah. You call that the unleavened bread. Then the very next day, the 16th of Nisan, will be the resurrection of our slain lamb. Hallelujah. Somebody shout hallelujah. I feel it in my soul. Hallelujah.
Hallelujah.
It will be the resurrection of our slain lamb on the 16th. That is not Resurrection Sunday, is it? Is the 16th of Nisan on Sunday this year, y'all? No, it's not. It'll be on a Tuesday at sundown. Tuesday at sundown will be the resurrection of our Savior. That's the date that it actually happened on. It wasn't a Resurrection Sunday. Never was. It may pass on a Sunday from time to time, but it wasn't. This resurrection happens on a Tuesday at sundown, and that is called the Hag Bikurim. It is also known as first fruits, and that you too render your first fruits. What do you mean by first fruits? The first fruits will be giving of a lamb. It'll be giving of fine flour, fine oil, fine wine. And then you combine those two, and you have that first fruits for your income streams, because Yahweh wants to resurrect some of your businesses. Yahweh wants to prepare you that in the places you'll begin to get to harvest in, Yahweh is going to create for you those things that you'll need for your harvest in those days, in those times. Resurrection is a time of restoration. It's a time of reciprocity. It's a time of redemption. It's a time of setting you up to go forward in the things of him, and he will provide for you. First fruits are significant per your income streams. And then, of course, remembering we have that following day, the end of that day, the end of that week will be Nisan the 21st, which will be April the 28th. And that will be the end of Feast of Unleavened Bread. So these 4 days, we're going to be having a actual broadcast service to celebrate these offerings. We will present our bodies, and then we will not come before him empty. What's that mean? Well, on Pesach, which is Nisan the 14th, I want y'all to look at the calendar, look at the very top, Nisan the 14th. Watch this. Nisan the 14th, you are required per household to render a lamb. Per household. That's what you're rendering, a lamb per household. It is monetized out at $3.30 USD. I can't do it in all other, I could, but we just don't have the time. I'm sure you guys can do it quicker than me in the countries and the monetary systems you live within. You can figure out what that looks like. So it's at $3.30 USD per household. Now, that lamb we will kill on the 14th was selected on the 10th right now, for many of you, you are still in the 10th. Very few of you have entered into the 11th of Nisan. But those of you who are watching the broadcast from around this world, those of you who are sitting here right now in the Eastern, most time zones are still in the 10th of Nisan, which you've selected your lamb. And if you're in the 11th, it's just a point I'm just making. You can get your lamb in now. You don't have to wait until the 14th. Just make sure your lamb that you selected according to the instructions, Exodus chapter 12, Leviticus 23, you have that lamb registered. And therefore, on the 14th, when we have the meal, we have the service, we have the ceremony, we have the memorial, you're in there. You got it in there. And remember, you guys are supposed to be getting your lambs prepared. Get your unleavened bread for this meal prepared. Let's just look at those instructions very quickly on the proceeding word. Again, that's what we talk about here is what the word says. So in Leviticus chapter and number 23, it tells us very specifically what has to happen. Leviticus 23, verse 1, verse 2. Speak to the children of Israel concerning the feast of Yahweh. You shall proclaim them to be Kodesh Mikras, holy convocations. Even these are my feasts. That word feast is the Moedim. Verse 4 says, these feasts are Yahweh's, even the holy convocations, which you shall proclaim in their season. Verse 1, verse 5, in the 14th day of the month at even is Yahweh's Pesach. All right. So the 14th day is Yahweh's Pesach. Verse 6 says the 15th day begins the Feast of Unleavened Bread. 7 days you're going to eat unleavened bread. In the first day, you'll have a holy convocation. The first day, which will be the 15th, you're going to have a holy convocation. You will do no work in that day. Your children don't go to school. You don't go to work. Nobody comes over to fix the toilet. Nobody, well, unless it's broke. Nobody comes over to adjust, your frequencies on your electricity unless it's out, right? So you do no work on that day. And then verse 8 says, but you will offer an offering made by fire. That's a lamb. What do you mean offer an offering made by fire? Yep. You're going to offer a lamb on the 15th and then also, according to the schedule, on the 21st. Why? Because Nisan 15 and Nisan 21 are the days that are identified as times we gather during that 7 day period. So on the 15th, we gather and bring that offering. On the 21st, we gather and bring that offering as well. We gather to bring it. Now, there are more things to this, and we'll talk about them during Shabbat, but look at the verse here in verse number 7. In the first day, you're going to have a holy convocation. That's the 15th. You'll do no work. Verse 8 says, but you'll offer an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for 7 days. Now, in the 7th day of the feast week of Hagat Matzah, it will be a holy convocation where you come again to the tabernacle, you present your bodies, and you present your offering that he's asked for. Also on that day, you do no work. All right. Then he tells you, verse 10, tell the children of Israel, when you come to the land which I will give you, that means where you're making your income. Verse 10, speak to the children of Israel and say unto them, in the land that I'm going to give you, because they're leaving Egypt to go to the promised land. When they get to the promised land, when they get to their place of work outside of Egypt, he said, tell them when they come into the land and you start to reap the harvest, I want you to bring a sheaf of the first fruits of your harvests, of your income streams, unto the priest. So if you got a harvest of apples, you bring a first fruit. You got a harvest of figs, you bring a first fruit. You got a harvest of grapes, you bring a first fruit. You have a harvest of lamb and livestock, you bring a first fruit. So whatever income streams you have and you harvest from, bring in actual first fruits for that honoring of me giving you the promised land. And you'll bring it to the priests. The priests will then, verse 11, the priests will then wave the sheaf offering before Yahweh to be accepted for you. Somebody say, I got to follow his instructions.
I got to follow his instructions.
He says, when the priest waves the offering you bring, I want you to take it to them. They're going to wave it to me to be accepted on your behalf, to let me know you're present. Not that he don't know, but that's his order. Somebody say, not that he don't know, but that's his order. Come on, 1, 2, 3. Not that he don't know.
He don't know.
That's just his order.
It's his order.
Now, if y'all don't like that, don't ever come to me and tell me another day. I don't want to ever hear you preach and talking about God is the God of decency and order. Hit different, don't it? All right, cool. Again, we lose a lot of people when we talk about these things, but remember, we're here for life, not for likes. Verse number 11 says, and they shall wave the sheaf offering before Yahweh to be accepted for you on the morrow after the Sabbath of the high holy day of Hakat Matzah, the 15th of Nisan. So this day that he waves it will be on the 16th of Nisan. All right. Verse 12, and you shall offer that day a wave offering. You will wave that sheaf with a lamb. That lamb will be without blemish of the first year. It will be without blemish and of the first year. And you will wave the burnt offering. Whenever you see burnt offering, guys, it's usually an animal. It's always an animal, pardon me. But it does have a difference in whether it's a ram, a lamb, or an ox. All right. And so here it is a lamb, L-A-M-B. So you're going to wave the sheaf offering with a sacrifice of a burnt offering, incorporating a lamb. Then verse 13 says, that's the burnt offering. The meat offering thereof shall be 2/10 deals of fine flour, also going to be mingling that with fine oil, and an offering made by fire unto Yahweh for a sweet savor. And then there'll be a drink offering. Therefore, it shall be of wine, the fourth part of a hin. All right, that is going to be the actual first fruits offering. And again, that is what you have accumulated here in this particular tile being seen on your screen at present. So 1 lamb, the oil, the wine, and the flour, all of it at its highest and finest quality. And that is what you render to Elohim per income stream during the feast season of Yahweh. Why is that important? Because the spring is the season of planting. When you begin to plant, this is Yahweh saying now he becomes the Lord of your harvest. So if you want your businesses to prosper, y'all don't want to hear me now. Yes, you do. Father, I repent for saying that to these great people. When you want your business to prosper, then you're putting it in Elohim's hand. That's why he told them, look at the verse he tells them here in chapter number, this is Leviticus 23. We're in Leviticus 23. Verse number 9, look at what he says. Leviticus 23:9. Yahweh told Moshe, tell the children of Israel, when they come into the land which I'm going to give them, they're prospering now. They are in the promised land. When they get their harvest, the very first harvest, every year during Pesach, I want them to bring me the first fruits of their harvest. This is the spring season. When you bring it to me, you bring it to me by virtue of giving it to the priests. The priests will wave the sheaf before me to be accepted for you. Basically like saying, hey, they're present, they're compliant, and they're here. And now Yahweh is taking over your business and how he's going to cause that income stream to remain voluminous, full, and it will always be producing in perpetuity. It might be a drought in the land. There might be a recession in the economy, but your route, your income stream, ones you give him the first fruits for, he will make sure they always render. It might be lesser because of the drought, because of the recession, but you'll have more than anyone else is going to be getting in that region in that season, and you will be sustained. Elohim says, give me your all, I'll give you what all you need. That's how he works. So when you understand these instructions, he says, for your household, put the blood of this lamb, 1 lamb per your household on the 14th. Then on the 15th, particularly you come on the 21st, you come and you render a lamb per adult. Then on the 16th, you come with the first fruits for your businesses so that I can make sure the ones I'm covering in the house are being able to sustain themselves wherever I send them, wherever you go. That's why Yahweh is called Yahweh Yireh. Did that hit anybody else different today?
Yes, sir. I appreciate
Does that hit different?
Yes, sir.
So what Elohim does is he has an order for which he says, let me see if they're going to obey me. Do y'all remember what Yahweh did when he first brought Israel out of Egypt? He told Moshe something very interesting. And I'm going to take you to Exodus chapter 16 to show you what happened. So in Exodus chapter 12, the Exodus happens. In Exodus chapter 12, 13, the Exodus is happening, right? Pharaoh's being drowned and all that stuff. You know, his army's being drowned and all that stuff. They're crossing the Red Sea. They're over into the land and they're finally free. In chapter 16, they have now run out of the bread from Exodus 12 that they made to go, right? And we'll read that in Exodus 12 in a few minutes. And so when they come out, according to Exodus chapter 12, and they get the actual bread, they make it the unleavened bread. It's not a cracker. It's not hard. It is pliable. They can wrap it up. They can roll it up and put it in their backpacks and walk with the children and hold the goat and everything else that's back there and push the bull so it can move and all that without breaking the bread, right? And then when they need it, they pull it out. They rip off a piece, give it to the children, rip off a piece and give it to grandma, rip off a piece and take it for themselves, roll it back up, put it back in the backpack, and they have sustenance. But by verse chapter 16, they have run out of bread. And thinking ahead, no longer in Egypt, can't just run to the corner store. You know what I mean? And they're in Egypt. And like any of us do who are parents or providers or responsible parties and guarantors for anything, we're thinking about how can we sustain ourselves. They begin to start complaining. So Exodus chapter 16 picks up at that stage. They're out of bread and they start complaining about what Yahweh can do or what they do not have. And they wonder why Moshe brought them into the wilderness, because we're going to die of hunger out here. Exodus chapter 16, look at it. And they took the journey from Elim, and the congregation of the children of Israel came unto the wilderness of Sin, which is between Elim and Sinai, on the 15th day of the second month after their departing out of the land of Egypt. So they are 30 days out of Egypt. And the whole congregation of the children of Israel murmured against Moshe and against Aaron in the wilderness. Verse 3, the children of Israel said unto them, would to Elohim that we had died by the hand of Yahweh while we were in the land of Egypt. At least we had sat in front of flesh pots, and we did eat bread to the full. For you have brought us forth into the wilderness to kill this whole congregation and assembly with hunger. Then said Yahweh unto Moshe, behold, Moshe, I'll give them bread. I'm going to rain bread down on them. Somebody say rain on us from heaven above. Somebody say rain on us, Yahweh. But he says, tell them, Moshe, tell them that they don't know I can hear them murmuring against you and Aaron, like you and Aaron brought them out of the wilderness. He said, but Moshe, go back and tell them cackling hen over there in the camp who don't know they no longer got a Pharaoh to fight with, but they rather be back where Pharaoh was, and they would rather be sitting back in that old place of their bondage rather than out here in the wilderness free to create and grow in different ways. It gets real interesting. Woo, boy, did that broadcast just drop off. Is everybody okay on the broadcast? We just lost 25 people. Is the broadcast okay?
We good.
Oh, Lord, help us. Look at verse 4. Then said Moshe, Yahweh unto Moshe, behold, I rain bread from heaven for you, and the people shall go out and hunger and gather a certain rate every day, that I may prove them. Here it is. This is the verse I want you to see. That I may prove them whether they will walk in my law, my instruction, my Torah, or not. Did y'all know he tried them with order to see if they would follow his instructions? See, if you don't do what Yahweh says do, he's not going to be obligated to do what he's capable of doing for you. Now get it. Israel has heard since Abraham about Yahweh bringing them out, making them great, making them a multitude of nations, making them a dynamic entity and empire, and yet they have been subjected for 400 years to the empire of Egypt. They are 30 days no longer a slave. They've been 400 years a slave. Now they are 30 days free of slavery, and Yahweh is finally delivering them. But Yahweh, they've been hearing about the promises, been hoping on the promises. Moshe came as a deliverer was promised. They say, okay, the deliverer came. Maybe this Yahweh thing is real. But now we're 30 days out since we left Egypt, and we watched Pharaoh and his army get drowned in the Red Sea. But we out here in the wilderness, and I can't see no fields of wheat, no fields of grain that we can touch and eat from. We had 30-day supply when we left Egypt. Now we out here and we struggling a little bit. And so I'm blaming Moses. I'm blaming Aaron. Them jokers, you always got to blame the governor, and you got to blame the pastor of the church because it's their fault. It's always their fault. Oh, I'm having fun on Friday. It's Fun Friday. So they're blaming Moshe, they're blaming Aaron as if Moses and Aaron brought them out. Are y'all following the storyline now? Does it hit different?
Super different. So
they're blaming Moshe, they're blaming Aaron for coming out of Egypt. Did Moshe fight Pharaoh? Did Aaron did Aaron have a water hose and drown the Egyptians in the sea? No. Who did it? Yahweh did. Who passed over their houses? Who put the blood on their houses? Who gave them those instructions? When they followed his instructions, they came out. Now see what happens is a lot of times when you don't get instructions, you start wondering if, that was all you're going to get. And now you start thinking, since I ain't heard nothing, I'm going to do what I think I should do. And Elohim ain't like that. So when you look at what goes on, they are now 30 days out of bondage, 30 days out of Egypt, waking up with some freedom they've never had, but they also don't have bread because they're running out. And then they start complaining. Ain't that typical of us as humans in general? I don't care what ethnicity, what race, what religion. We just are a complaining people when we don't see things the way we think they should look. And so the people start to complain about Aaron. They start to complain about Moshe as if they were the ones that brought them out here into the wilderness to die. It was better for us. You know what they said? Y'all look at what they said. Look at what they said. Look at what they said. Look at the verse. Look at the verse. Look at the verse. Look at the verse. The verse says, verse number 3, it says, and the children of Israel said unto them, would to God, I would to God that we had died by the hand of Yahweh while we were still in the land of Egypt. At least we'd have died eating food. That's how we know your belly can be your God. They said, we wish to God we had died in the land of Egypt and Yahweh would have killed us there. At least we would have been sitting in front of flesh pots, cooking a meal and stroked out. Cooking a meal and fire dropped on our head, but we'd have been by some food. We'd been around the table playing spades, eating some bread, drinking some homemade hooch, and having some stewed lamb or roast goat or something. Y'all don't believe that's what they were saying? I'm sorry. Does that read different for y'all than me? Did I lie? Is there any lies detected?
No.
Any lies detected? Y'all looking at me like I'm weird. Y'all know I can't see y'all through the camera, but I'm saying I can see y'all through the camera. Was there any lies detected? Okay. All right, let's move on. No lies detected. There you go. Look at what they're saying. This is why you got to understand when you read the writ, you learn so much more. He goes on to say, they say in verse 3, the children said, would to Elohim we had died in the land of Egypt by the hand of Yahweh while we were sitting at flesh pots, while we were eating bread to our full. for you, Moshe and Aaron, you jokers, got us all hyped up, amped us up against Pharaoh. Forget the fact that we saw 10 miraculous plagues, okay, Moshe, Aaron, forget all that, but you jokers brought us out here into the wilderness to kill the whole assembly with hunger. Now, Yahweh then says to Moshe, behold, tell those ungrateful individuals, and though and he's very patient here. Yahweh is very patient this time. He's looking at them. He's like, all right, okay, it's new to them. I understand the mentality. They just got freed. They fresh out. You know, when you ever get somebody fresh out of incarceration, they always think in survival mode and me and my four no more. And if it ain't that, it's just me by myself in my pillow, one bed, one pillow by myself. Okay. So he's like, they fresh out. They got that prison mindset. They fresh out. Look, just tell them to calm down. I will rain bread from heaven for y'all. The people shall go out in the morning and gather what I'm going to rain down on y'all, a rate every day, that I may prove these people, now that they free, whether they will walk in their freedom according to my laws who freed them. Is the finished work of the cross looking different to y'all? I keep asking y'all like y'all can talk to me, but I know you can. Type it in the comment. Is the finished work of the cross, based on what you just read, looking different to you now? Yahweh is like, once they're out and they're freed, okay, they need bread. They're not used to it. They don't know I'm gonna provide. So Moshe, just tell them to calm down. I will rain bread on them. So tomorrow when they get up, just tell them to go out and pick up a certain rate per person. He said, I'm gonna tell them a specific instruction. I'm gonna give them a rate to pick up per person. What's the rate? An amount. So each person will pick up 1 omer of this that I'm going to rain on them per human. And that will be your sustenance. Yahweh is rationing out bread to them, but they will eat this ration to their full, and he'll do it fresh every day. But this is the blessing of Pesach. Pesach introduces you to following the instructions of the Creator. God help me today. It is designed to introduce you to learning now how to leave an old edict, an old bondage, an old system, and be free from it, because it used you 100% for its vain glory. Elohim is going to use you for the glory of his kingdom, for the benefit of all humans, not the ego of one man. Am I making sense to anybody on the platform today? So Pesach is more important than just down at the cross where my Savior died. It's an understanding that there is a plan for all of humanity, for all of humanity to have a commonwealth designed, provided for, and sustained by Yahweh or Elohim. So they're 30 days out, not been freed on their own to think on their own for 400 years, because pharaohs of old have had them in bondage. Now the prophecy has come to pass. They saw a glimpse of it a couple of days ago. Now Yahweh don't seem to be talking. The bread we had, we've been survived off of for 30 days, but because of the way we are so used to Pharaoh providing, he also broke our backs. He also cut our backs open with whips. He also used our bodies as blood and mortar for his brocks, his temples, stuff he built for his other gods. But at least we knew where the food was. Now we out here and Pharaoh ain't providing for us no more, because he ain't letting us let our sheep graze in his yards in Goshen. So we don't really know how we're going to eat. So we out here now, 30 days from bondage, now 30 days into freedom, and we don't know how we're going to eat. Forget the fact that we've been sustained for the last 30 days on one instruction 30 days ago. y'all not going to talk to me today. So everything that we do, they're saying we've been accustomed to getting from Pharaoh and the Egyptian culture and way of life. Though they're in a whole new world, a whole new place where they can create and design whatever Elohim wants on his topography of the earth, they are still stuck in their mind back in Egypt. See, Pesach sets you free from it. Now, granted, the journey to the next 50 days from Egypt, the journey to the promised land requires liberation. And that's why Shavuot had to happen. The giving of the Torah would replace the edict that they'd had memorized and constantly have as a default from their mind. That's what the word given in Sinai was about. It liberated them when they were freed in their souls. So now they're complaining to Moshe and Aaron. Yahweh says, listen, tell them I'm going to send down food. I'm going to send down rain down bread and take a certain amount. But here's the point for why we came to the verse 4. Look at verse 4. He says, I'm going to rain bread from heaven. Somebody shout manna.
No.
And the people shall go out, and the people are to gather a certain amount every day. I'm doing this that I may be able to prove them whether they will walk in my ways, walk in my Torah. Now, the word law here is the word Torah, people. I didn't make this up. Look at verse 4. Look at it. Pulling up the word law here, it is the word Torah. He says, I'm going to do this, give them a certain rate, because I want to see if they're going to follow my instructions. I want to see if they follow my precepts. I want to see if they follow my statutes. I want to see if they follow what I have for them. Now, you've been calling it, because of Greek and translation, you've been calling it a Decalogue. You've been calling it the Pentateuch, which is a Greek word on the Hebrew side of the Bible. A whole nother issue I'm not going to discuss with y'all. But the word is H8471. The word law here is Torah. Now, it comes from the word 3384, which is also the word yarar, which means an actual proper way to flow like water to rain. All right. And it is an instruction like an arrow, something that you throw, something that you instruct. It's an information process. It's something that you teach, have a teaching of. All right. It is a direction. Just like an archer would cast his bow. That's what Torah is about. Instructions that go before you. Somebody type that in. Make that a quote. Torah means instructions that go before you and set the way. Do y'all get that? Nobody's going to scream about that. Nobody just got that revelation. I'm typing. I want y'all to get it. The book of Torah, the law of Torah, as you call it, are the book of Elohim's instructions. So like I just typed over into your threads, for those of you who ain't typing in your threads, let me do it on Clubhouse because that's a dead thread too. No excitement over there either. Torah is divine instructions of Elohim that go before the believer in Elohim. All right. I sent that to you guys over there in that particular platform. And I'm going to reset this for those of you in Clubhouse. All righty. All right. Okay, done. Thank you. There it go. Uh-oh. Got it. Here it come. Copy. Yes, I'm taking the time because I want it to be right for y'all. That's right, Karen Williams. Great job. I'm redoing the instructions I gave y'all initially. All right, cool. There you go. So Torah is divine instructions of Elohim that go before the believer in Elohim, because the yarar is an arrow that you point. It is an instruction that you send forth. So when you and I follow those instructions, this is what Yahweh is saying in verse number 4. He's telling the children of Israel. Some might say, I'm Israel by faith because of the blood.
I'm Israel by faith because of the blood.
I can stop here and get stuck on that too, because of the blood of Pesach, which is technically the blood of the cross. The blood of the cross is the blood of Torah of Pesach. So when we talk about down at the cross where my Savior died, down where for cleansing from sin I cry, the blood, that blood, nothing. I know it was the blood for me. The blood of the cross, the blood of Pesach, the blood of the cross is the blood of Pesach. This is the lamb. That's what represents the lamb. That is the lamb. This is a shadow of that. And every time we memorialize and remember that this blood cleanses us so we can be free from the bondage we were in and the culture of that bondage. And now we have instructions, i.e. the Torah, to follow going forward, a whole different set of community. So when you follow the Torah, he says in verse number 4 here, he tells them, he says, listen, then Yahweh said to Moshe, I want to rain down bread for them because they're hungry. They're new to this. They fresh out. They don't know how to be patient right now. And they panicking. They got children. They got grandparents. They got stuff. They hungry themselves. So I'm going to put rain in their face. Okay. They'll get used to me blessing them. Sooner or later, they're going to calm down, but they never do. He says, and so verse 4, I will rain bread down from heaven for the people. They shall go out and gather a certain rate every day. Now, the reason I'm giving y'all the, no, Kalisha, you did fine. You didn't do it wrong. You did it well, Kalisha. Thank you. I will rain bread down from heaven for you. The people will go out to gather a certain rate every day, a certain rate every day. And the reason that I'm doing this, because they're fresh out. They followed Pharaoh's instructions to the T. They made his brick and his tally without straw. They follow his instructions to a T. That's because he was whipping them on their back. I want to see if they will follow my instructions, even though I don't whip them. I want to see if they'll be as faithful or as fully understanding of what I'm saying, following the instructions that I'm giving. And then he says, I'm going to give them a rate. I want them to follow the instructions so I may prove them whether they're going to walk in my instructions or not. Have I delivered the right people? Does that hit different, y'all? Anybody ever took this much time in verse 4? Have any of y'all ever read verse 4?
I had a comment when you said that, but it does get different though.
It's like, did anybody ever read? I mean, most people haven't even read verse 4. You know what I mean? Because we're so caught up in what we thought we were supposed to be doing, and we don't even know enough to make sure that piece is in fact about the Torah, okay, or about his instructions. So in verse 4, he's telling y'all, I want to make sure that the people are going to follow me. So Moshe, they're complaining, and you know what? Quite frankly, that's cool because they're fresh out. So I'm gonna rain down bread. He also gives them that night quail from the heavens. You read the whole story in Exodus chapter 16. I just wanted to get verse 4 of Exodus 16 because he's like, this is the beginning of Yahweh saying, I want to see if they're going to follow my instructions. And then he gives them more instructions, i.e. you end up with the culmination we have today of the Torah. He says, I just want to see if they're going to follow my instructions. Let me give them this set. Y'all go out every day and gather this much per man per day and eat that. Oh, and don't leave any of today's food over for tomorrow. Because if you do, it's going to stink. It's going to grow worms. Don't do it. Don't eat that. Every day I will provide for you. Now, another instruction. Somebody shout instruction.
Instruction.
I said shout it. Oh, never mind. All right, come on. So instruction. Watch this. He says, not only will you gather a certain amount per day per man, you won't eat it except for the day. But now here's a special exemption. On the 6th day, on day number 6, I'm going to give you 2 days worth of food. But that day you can have leftovers, because the 7th day, I don't want you working. I don't want you to have to go out there and sweat off your brow to collect this, gather this seed. Days 1 through 6, you can do all that. So in day 6, I'm going to give you enough for 2 days. So the 2nd day's supply will be for the 7th day. But I want you to cook it all on the 6th day, so it's sitting there ready in your pots for the 7th day, and you and me can just sit and talk in harmony, and you can just pull it out the cupboard, lift up the blanket, pull up from the pot, and just eat it while I talk to you and teach you my word, teach you my way, show you you can tell your children about where I brought you from, what Father Abraham said, and how Isaac was, his stories and all that. And I can tell you what's going on. That's what Yahweh wanted. He says that I'm doing this so I can prove whether y'all gonna follow my instructions. So these are simple instructions. So my point to you all today is Yahweh gave us instructions. Pesach is one of them. Shavuot is another one of them. We've messed it up in Christendom. We call it Easter. We call it Pentecost. It should never have been called Pentecost. That's Shavuot. That's in the summer. But right now, Pesach should have never been called Easter. Pesach, the death, the burial, the resurrection of our Savior, the death, the burial of the Lamb, the freedom of Elohim. That ceremony should never have been called Easter. It is Pesach. The finished work of Calvary is Pesach. The blood that Yeshua shed for me, you can sing it all day, it's Pesach. It's the instruction of Pesach. And we just do way too much because we came into what was changed. And Yahweh wants us to study to show ourselves approved unto him, become a workman who will need not to be ashamed. Do you know what it's going to be like to stand before the Father and tell the Father, he says, what'd you do with my word? Oh, God, man, I celebrated Easter and Christmas every year. He's going to look at you like, which hand you want me to smack you with? Can you imagine? Can you imagine standing before the Father and him saying, what did you do with my word? What did you do with my salvation? Oh, we used your name and cast out demons, and we celebrated Easter, and we celebrated Christmas, and we did Palm Sunday. We did all that stuff, God. We did. Yeah. He gonna be like, did you even read my word? Oh, I read your Bible. I see. Did you read my word? We was in the Bible like every Wednesday and Thursday, and my prayer meeting, and then we had the special prayer meeting with the prayer warriors and stuff. And we was always in the Bible. We read the Psalms, and we was and proverbing all over the place. I'm a Proverb 31 woman, and he a Proverb 31 man, and so we was all in the way. Yeah, we read the Bible. Did you read my word? We went to and we had our children do it too when they was reciting. They recited Jesus wept at the Easter program. And we, because the baby was a little bit slow learning, so we gave them that same verse for the Christmas program just to make sure we was You know what I mean, God? So I'm sorry.
Hey, you know what I mean, God?
It's Fun Friday. Y'all didn't like that. Y'all was like, oh, he's just rude. I'm sorry. It's what it is. Because we're going to have to stand before Elohim and give account to what we live. That's why he's going to say, well done. You followed my instructions. Well done, my good and full of my word servant. That's what the word faithful means. The word faithful is the word in Hebrew for emunah. My faithful, emunah, is he who is full of his word. We call him El Emunah, the God that is full of his word. His word is the bond. But we haven't been taught that in Christendom because we still Christian. So we don't know. And it's not that people intentionally kept that out. It's just that people didn't take time to learn him before they went propagating and creating scenarios and business plans and church models after inaccurate and insufficient information. Thus, the sermons would look the same. At the end of the day, when you understand what it means to hear him say, well done, my good and faithful servant, meaning one who followed my instructions, that means you listen to his instructions, a charge to keep you had, and Elohim to glorify, right? But there's a second statement that could possibly be rendered to the same person, and that statement could be, depart from me, because you, though in my church, you, though calling my name, you, though crying all night, you, though fasting in prayer, worked iniquity. You never worked my word. I don't mind being the bearer of that news. And it will make people not like you, make people want to walk away from you. People will call you a heretic. People will call you goofy, crazy, or loony, or whatever. But that's how that conversation can only play out. You either are a faithful servant. Faith comes by hearing, hearing by the word, or you will work iniquity in the pulpit, in the ushers department, in the parking lot ministry, in the napkin ministry. And when you stand before him, he's going to ask you, what did you do with my word? Because Elohim loved the world. He gave his word that whoever believed in his word might be saved. What did you do with my word I sent? Oh, yeah, I read the Bible. What'd you do with my word? Oh, I read the Bible. The Bible is not the word of God. The Bible contains the word of Elohim. Do you know where to find it? Mr. and Mrs. Christian, Mr. and Mrs. Public, Mr. and Mrs. Degreed, deep doctorate in ministry. Where is the word of Elohim? Oh, it's in the Bible. Right. Did you obey what was in the Bible? Or did you just take the testimonies and the records and the stories? You know, because we like stories. We like the soap operas. That's the part of the Bibles we like. The stories. Did you follow the instructions? I said keep Pesach. I didn't tell you to keep Easter. Well, that's what they told us. I told you to study to show yourself approved to me, not to them. I told you to become a workman that need not be ashamed in this moment, but one who could stand before me and rightly divide the words of truth. Well, the Bible is the truth. It contains the truth. It gives you testimonies of those who did and did not obey the truth. So that's what you did. And you're going to blame the preacher now. You're responsible for your salvation. You call them people like Jones crazy, telling you to understand the Torah, because the Torah is what I gave to man. Oh, but that was just too much. It don't take all that. And you thought it was just for the Jews. Did you read the Torah to find out I didn't give it to a Jew? There was no Jew around when I gave the Torah. Moses is not a Jew. Aaron is not a Jew. King David is not a Jew. So the men who honored my word and prospered under me and my instructions, you read the stories about them. But did you do what they did? Jesus, Yeshua, his prosperity. You said you want to be like Yeshua. You stand before me at my throne. I'm just mimicking. I'm just role playing what I believe was going to happen in the last day for many people. You stand before my throne right now, living on my time, living on my breath, living on my earth, living on the instruction I sent you into the earth to do. And now you're going to come back here at the end of your tenure and you're going to tell me you want to be like Yeshua. Did you do what Yeshua did? Because he's over here chilling. Where are you going to be at after this conversation? Did you follow my word? Because he did. He even told you I didn't come to do my own will. I didn't come to destroy the Torah. I came to show you how to live the Torah. So did you even read my instructions? I read the Bible. I promise you, God, I read the Bible. Okay. You have a good day. Depart from me. Because if you didn't read my instructions, all you could work was iniquity.
Wait, say that last part again.
If you did not work my word, all you could work was iniquity. Really? You thought communion was what I wanted? You thought a cracker was what I was talking about? Some little smudge? You thought Christmas is me? You gonna come up here and talk about you kept Easter like I'm supposed to be happy? You kept Easter in my church. You want me to be happy that you cut down a tree in the woods and brought it into a place you said is my house, and I told you don't even bring it into your house. And I'm supposed to be happy because you kept Christmas? You better be good and happy that Yahweh don't have high blood pressure issues. Nobody? Did I offend? I offended people, didn't I? Y'all okay? Am I good with y'all? Y'all good with me? We good? Y'all okay? Y'all don't like my role playing?
I'm good with it. I don't know about nobody else.
Yeah, I know you good with it. But there are a lot of people out there, man. They be like, you know what? He goofy. See, they dropped off. 12 people just dropped off. It happens all day long. But you know what's funny? What I love is they always have to come back because you might be mad at the drama. You might be mad at the presentation because you never heard it that way. But when you stop to think about it, and they'll be sitting there going like, he get on my nerve. He get on my nerve. I'm happy being the one who gets on your nerve, and I'm happy being the one you go to the Bible to prove wrong. Mission accomplished. Just go to the word. I just need you to go read it. That's as long as you go read it, you and I are going to be fine at the end. Just go read it. So Pesach is about keeping things within Elohim's construct for our lives, relevant to our lives. He created our life. Pesach is a command within it that guides us through it, equips us in it. This is why we keep Pesach. It's a lifestyle. It's not just a preached point and a sermon and this, that, or the other. It's a lifestyle. It is the epitome of the song, "A Charge to Keep I Have." Not a God, but Elohim to glorify. Messiah told you, I didn't come to do my own will. I came to do the will of him that sent me. What is the will of him that sent me? Many of us think erroneously and ignorantly. I say that kindly, not being smart. If we just don't know, we just don't know. But when you do find out, you do know. We got to do it. Again, vet it. Take your time and vet it. but just don't let it be too late. And in complying with his instructions, it benefits your natural life on this earth while you're here before he calls you home. He pulled them out of Egypt because they followed his instructions. Let me ask y'all a question. What would have happened if they did not select the lamb on the 10th day? What would have happened if they did not kill it on the 14th day? What would have happened if they didn't put the blood on the door? What would have happened if they did not eat the meal inside the house with the door shut while the death angel, see that default kicked in again, while Yahweh passed over to smite the land of Egypt? What would have happened if they did not dress and be dressed while they ate that meal? What got them out of Egypt was them following Elohim's instructions. You and I, many of us are in Egypt right now, and the only way out is to follow Elohim's instructions. The children of Israel had no idea how to get out of their bondage in Egypt because the military that was there was such a powerful force, and Israel had been forcibly put into a condition where they could never defend themselves. Though the more they were oppressed, the greater their number grew. But the military might kept them. The government kept them from being able to amass their own militia within themselves to say, hey, we pushing back. Now we can either negotiate where we work together and have fair trade, but you ain't going to be pushing us into slavery no more. We're going to give you for good service, for good pay, and we'll do that for you, man. We'll work for you, Pharaoh. We got a good thing here. No, they didn't want to hear no negotiations. They want to complete dominance over their people. But the more they oppressed that people, the more they quantitatively grew. At the end of the day, even in their quantitative number, they still could not overcome Egypt because of the military might. So in their mind, we're stuck here. We can't outfight them. They've cut off all of our resources. They've cut off all of our income lines. We got to be dependent upon them. They got us over a barrel. Elohim only can deliver us. So what happens when they follow the instructions of Elohim, he gives them a way in their mind out of no way. They couldn't find a way out. But Elohim and his instructions made a way. Somebody give praise to Yahweh.
Yahweh be praised.
Hallelujah.
So when you and I honor him and follow his instructions like they followed his instructions, our Egypts can be annihilated like this. Our bondage, our debt, our struggles, our damaged reputation, our damaged character, our cut up back from people stabbing us in the back, our timidity, our dependency emotionally and or financially on another entity, an institution who is purposefully disrespecting us, purposefully making us look like we are their flunky, and making us whatever they want to be, and their slave, their subservient. Whether it be your addictions, whether it be your proclivities, whatever it may be, your mom, maybe your dad, be it your husband, be it your love interest, be it whatever. You follow Elohim's instructions, he will make a way for you. He will bring you out of your Egypt. That's what the blood is about. That's what the cross is about. That's what the death of Yeshua to his flesh by following the word in him was about. Love you. Is that permanent? Do y'all get that? No? Nobody?
Okay, I was trying not to come in, but yes, sir.
I love your life, and I hope to Elohim. Here's the things you need to learn about Pesach today, practical entities for those of you who look to participate and be there. Who is this? Kalisha Robertson. If Kalisha Robertson is still there, let me know. There's a question on the platform. Do we cook on Pesach? Can we cook on Pesach? If she's still there, I'll answer this question if she's there. Kalisha, you have to let me know that you're there before I answer this question. You got two things going on. Today is, in fact, for most of us, one half of the world, and one half of the world has entered into the 11th, which is no problem. It's just that at the beginning of the 10th, you get your lamb in. Get your lamb in now. Make sure you do. Those of you who look to actually get your lamb in for your household, this lamb is just for the household. Your lambs on, and you want to have that lamb between now and the 21st, which is the 10th of Nisan and the 14th of Nisan, between 10 and 14, which is today, the 18th. Well, it started on the 18th. Today's the 19th through the 21st. Have your lamb in before sundown on Sunday. Your lamb for your home. This is the lamb that Yahweh passes over. You are commemorating the blood that Yeshua shed for you. All right. And you want to make sure you render that lamb per your household. All right. And that's when Exodus 12's memorializing of him passing over the sins. Man, he just keeps trying to give us what we need to get back to him. And all we got to do is follow the instructions that he's given us. But how often do we not follow it? How often do we just think we don't need to? It's just no big. I ain't got to do that. If I do it when I want to. I don't feel like doing it this year. I got other things in mind. Man, I got plans. I got other stuff. God know my heart. He does. He does. He does. And what he's told us in verse 4 of Exodus 16 is, I want to see if they're going to follow my instructions. Or they're going to do this their way. They're going to make it be what they want it to be and do it their way, forming, as Paul says, their own righteousness. Being ignorant of Elohim's word, they went about to create their own righteousness. Isn't that the epitome of working iniquity? It is. So I want to make sure you guys keep that in your heads. So one of the things you want to make sure you do, get your lamb in. What is your lamb? Your lamb is monetized out at $330 USD. So I can get that in now. And just for the sake of some of you who don't know, you can go to vwjministries.com. For those of you who are with us and citizens of this Kingdom Post, you can get your contributions in there safely on those days. That'll be something we talk about later on tonight in our Pesach, Friday night Pesach. Friday night Sabbath service. You can use any of those avenues to make sure you get it in. But more importantly, remembering what it is you're trying to accomplish with this process. On this day until Sunday before sundown, you want to have this for your household, one lamb. That's what you want per household, one lamb. Get that sent in, put it where it is. If your ministry is actually honoring it and understanding it and knowing what to do with it and how it's supposed to work and what the prayers are and what have you, that's what you want to do. If you are in ministry, a leader in ministry, you always give up to what's covering you. Yours give in to you, but then you are to give up to where you are covered. All right. So then you have, so from now until the 21st at sundown, make sure you get your lamb in. All right. Then on the 21st after sundown, all right, the 22nd at sundown, you now have your lamb per responsible adult who is an earner in society. We will gather 2 times to commemorate this 7-day feast. We will gather on the 15th and we will gather on the 21st. Present your bodies a living sacrifice and don't come before him empty. Okay. And that is also your lambs. All right. Then on Nisan the 16th, which will be the 23rd at sundown, you come for Hag Bikurim. That will be on the 23rd at sundown. That will be a first fruits for all your income streams. Each income stream, you render a sheaf of that harvest. You don't mix harvest. Somebody said, well, if it's just me and I got 3 businesses, then that should just be my first fruits for me. No, you don't have a sheaf. If you have 3 different harvests, if you got a wheat harvest, a grape harvest, and a fig harvest, your sheaves are different. You give a sheaf per that harvest. This harvest is a separate type of harvest. That harvest is a separate type of harvest. So those are 3 separate income streams. Wheat is a whole nother element. The grapes are a different element, and so are the figs. So each income stream you want Yahweh to bless. And that's why you give him the first fruits of those harvests, and you render with that sheaf your lamb, your oil, and your fine wine, and your flour. And that is what that is per your income streams. Okay. So we'll make sure you get that understood. So we'll talk more about that tonight. You can ask more questions tonight. We'll be on, for those of you who are already in your 7th day Shabbat, we'll already be online talking with you guys. This is not, guys, this is not a beg. This is a instruction to comply. If you know this ministry, we don't ask y'all for anything other than compliance to his word. So, okay. My bad. We have asked you for some keystrokes in the threads because of the algorithm platform, the algorithms of the platforms we are on. But that's it. We don't tell you, oh, God said get this, and God said get that, and y'all should get this. And we don't do all that. We are a ministry, but it is for the benefit of helping you have a relationship with the Father. And the relationship with the Father requires following the Father's instructions. That's what Yeshua came to tell us to do. All right. So just understand that this is not a beg. We're not, baiting. This is just what the word says. You read it and you read it for yourself. That's where it's at. You do or you don't. That's on you. But there are, I dare say this in a negative sense, but there are consequences, positively or negatively, for compliance. Compliance gets him to move on your behalf as he promised. He's always going to be your God. He's always going to be there. He is. But if you want what he has promised you can have, since you like, I'm blessed in the city, I'm blessed in the field, you want to sing Deuteronomy 28, it comes with compliance. It does. I'm sorry. I don't know about that because he blessed me. Yeah, miracles can happen. And miracles are always trying to show the unbeliever or the inexperienced believer that this is possible. This is his way and his will. And there has to be a supernatural move to get you jump started into, oh, all right, this is real. Let me comply. So that's what you got to understand about the difference between a miracle and a kingdom citizen. A kingdom citizen doesn't need a miracle because they are always in the maintaining plan of compliance. If you're compliant, Yahweh's always providing. The ones who need the miracles are the ones who are subpar, and need to come up. He miraculously brings you up to where you're supposed to be, and then he expects you to become compliant because he proved to you what he could do. Now come compliant. If you love me, keep my commandments. If that miracle triggered you to love him, now from that level, since he brought you up, keep my commandments. I hope that makes sense because these things are very important. All right. Now to a question we had from Kalisha Robertson. We're so glad to have you with us, Kalisha Robertson. And we're glad that you're trying to incorporate and find out what to do. Do you cook on Pesach? Actually, you are cooking on Pesach. You do have to cook the lamb. Many people don't think that you cook on Sabbath, but you do. What Yahweh was doing in the book of Exodus, chapter 16, was back then, they're different than us today. As a matter of fact, a lot of the conveniences that you see in our world, particularly in America, the pilot for the stove, the refrigerator, the sliced meats, all right, the prepackaged meats, I should say, the the fruits in your fruit basket. All of that came out of a construct of Torah. Now, others have done it for other reasons, but many of the conveniences we have in America are predicated on, not unfortunately, but rather we should be grateful on a lot of Jewish Torah observancy tradition, because they didn't want to be found dishonoring Torah by starting a fire. Because if you know what it takes to start a fire, so before we got stoves and pilots where the fire stayed on and you just turn gas to it, just no energy, just turn your hand. You're not working hard and working out to get the fire up and all that stuff, or washing clothes, taking it down to the lake and scrubbing it on a rock, and then wringing out some dungareens and wringing out a basket with 3 people holding it, trying to make it work. If y'all ever did real work, y'all know what I'm talking about. See, that was the thing Yahweh was talking about. He doesn't want service work being done, and you're not doing servile work. So cooking for yourself, properly prepared, prepped for that day, is particularly fine. You're going to cut this lamb, as it were. In Israel, this Sabbath, they would literally kill the lamb that day. You have to do it on that day, not before. You do it on that day. You kill the lamb, you bleed the lamb, you had to wait for that lamb. So they had to cook that lamb at night. They didn't eat that meal until late in that night. Y'all need to understand that. So let's just say sundown was at 7 o'clock. Well, at 7 o'clock, they got the lamb, they bled the lamb, they got him draining out and whatever, and then they got the lamb cut up. So by the time they actually got that meal, it was like late in the night. Did y'all ever think about that? Because they couldn't prep it. They couldn't do anything with it prior to. On the 10th day, they got the lamb. The 14th, they killed it. So they were prepping that lamb all 14. So if the 14th started at 7 p.m. sundown, and I would think it probably was sooner, based on that side of the world. If I'm remembering right, it's about an hour sooner, sundown usually over there. So let's just say it was at 6 o'clock. So they killed the lamb, bled the lamb, however many hours it took for the lamb to bleed out. Then they got to chop that lamb up, butcher it up. Well, they didn't butcher that one. They cooked it with its pertinence in it. So they had to bleed it out. Thank you, Yahweh. They bled the lamb out, and then they left it with the pertinence inside. So they had to skin it. Okay, but then they roasted the lamb, put it on a skewer, drove it straight through its body, and then they put it on a roaster. And they roast that lamb with fire. So it may have roasted for at least 3 hours. And then the blood, they put on the doorpost and the lintel. So while the lamb was cooking, they're doing all the blooding and preparing the meal and preparing everything, and got their bitter herbs and making the salad up. You know, I don't know if they sauteed the bitter herbs or what, you know what I mean? I know that typically it's a salad. All right. You know, you have the bitter herbs, whatever the bitter herbs are. Did they boil them down? As long as they didn't put any yeast in it, that's fine. So for some of you who be tripping, let me give you an instruction. If you got spinach and you got arugula and you got your horseradish and you want to saute it, as long as you don't have any yeast in that process, you're good. But the issue is the eating of the bitter herb, because the bitter herbs are to remind Israel of their bondage, bitter bondage in Egypt. And then the tears, this is why we believe it was not cooked down vegetation, because the tears were represented in the salt water that is also a part of that meal, because the bitter experience made them cry. So that's why we produce the tear water, you know, to dress the salad with. And then you can use collards, mustards, you know, whatever a bitter herb is. And it can be the purple as well. That's bitter. I don't think iceberg lettuce falls into that at all. And so that's just understanding about how you're prepping things and getting things done and set up. So, and then you have, of course, the unleavened bread. Some of y'all need to start practicing your unleavened bread now. Okay. so that it is moist and pliable when you get it. Otherwise, you're going to have a very hard cracker rock. We don't want y'all to do that. So get a feel for how to get the right amount. And remember, you don't have to make them whole pancakes, as it were. You can make them, properly proportioned, maybe 4 inches in diameter or 6 inches or whatever. They don't have to be 12 and 16s. But start working on that, and getting them so that you can have them. And then you're going to be eating that unleavened bread all week long. Now, eating the unleavened bread all week long does not mean you only eat unleavened bread for 7 days. No, you don't eat the yeast. And when you eat the bread along with whatever other protein or vegetation and simple carbs you might have, you only eat unleavened bread with it. Got it? But for 7 days, you eat unleavened bread. Got it? All right. That's what you're doing. I hope that answered some questions for some people. Okay. All righty. Boy, Clubhouse, there's nobody on Clubhouse these days. Well, I pray that Clubhouse, you guys are favored and blessed by it in any event. All right. YouTube, Facebook, good to have you guys with us. This is, again, the Proceeding Word, and we are in the special edition, learning how to preparing for and proclaiming of Pesach. It is a time to understand, and you can't really teach. People have always come back to me after broadcast and say, you start getting into the history and I can't follow you. One, it's because we've been trained in these arenas of Christendom. Our minds just trigger to Christian, and we think we're supposed to get sermons like some of the lecturers and orators within our genre. And the problem becomes if to understand Pesach, to understand the feasts, to understand Torah, we have to remind you of the stories you already know and show you where they went contrary to the instructions Elohim left. So that history has to happen in order to give impact to the instruction that should be. Because if we don't show you what was done wrong, that we do, when we show you what the instructions are, it won't hit right. So if we just go into the Bible and tell you, okay, this is what the Bible says, you're like, well, we ain't got to do that. But if we take it and reverse it, and this is for pastors as well, pastors and leaders, let me help y'all with how to deliver this type of thing. All right. Show us what we're doing. Have fun with it. We're all gonna be like, yeah, we do that. We rock like that. Yep. Down at the cross. And then hit them with, here is how that's wrong. Here is where we went left. And then you present the instruction and it's like, oh, didn't know that. Now it hits different. But if you just hit them with this is what it's supposed to be, we ain't got to do that. That's the Old Testament. That's that stuff for the Jews. I love Israel. None of this that we talk about is anti-Semitic, in case those who are monitoring this, which you have made yourselves known and present. This is not anti-Semitic. This is only about history. I love all things of the bloodline of Israel. All things. Bloodline of Israel, bloodline of Abraham. Not anti-Semitic, not anti-anything, but anti-Torah. Got it? And so with that being said, when you hit them with what's supposed to be, the Christian model does not say honor Torah. It says read the Bible. It says Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And not realizing that Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, once they were trained by Messiah, only spoke, only talked, rather only honored, only did, only performed Torah, just like Messiah. So until you can draw them from the Brit Hadessa and understanding why they do what they do by the Brit Hadessa, you can then show the Brit Hadessa's root and foundation from Torah. And it's a longer process because of the building and the institutions that have been built on those foundations. You gotta circle the building a couple times before you even get a bite on understanding we're doing this wrong, guys, because they're content with the structure they've made. This is beautiful. Why do we have to tear it down? This is wonderful. Why do we have to change? You doing too much. No, the founder of this building, the founder of this institution said, we ain't got to do that. I mean, look, here's the proof. The building is this big. It's so nice. Why we got to change? It's wonderful. Look, it got 18 stories. You tripping. You just trying to be, rogue. And that's where we are. And that's what we got to understand. So when you're teaching this leaders, pastors, to congregations that you have legitimate, influence over, remember, they, like you and I both, before we got it, were under this glamorous structure. And why rock it? Why bother with it? So you got to know that they're going to have that same abrasiveness and defense mechanism as we had, because God knows I was defending mine to life. I was fighting back and forth, pulling out machetes, pulling out switchblades, pulling out guns and bazookas and RP. I'm pulling out everything, defending what I thought I knew in Christendom. And that's when I went to prove them wrong, and I started studying it. Hard study to prove them wrong. And that's when Elohim met me. He's like Paul to the road to Damascus, like, what are you doing? Even Paul was trying to prove Yeshua wrong, and he was studying to prove Yeshua wrong. And then in his studies, Adonai met him on road to Damascus. What you're fighting against is what I sent. You say you love me. Why are you fighting against me? And now we got to come back and tear down the institution that trained us. Now you looked at as divisive. Now you looked at as demonstrative. Now you looked at as destructive and trying to bring division. And it's like, I get why Messiah said, I didn't come to bring peace. I came to bring a sword. All right, that's too much for y'all. Why y'all let your lunch break? UK, y'all still with us out there? Felton, the information is on the VWJ Ministries webpage and on the VWJ Ministries Facebook. You'll probably find it quicker on the Facebook page. But I do think that it might be on the webpage because we're still doing some things on that webpage presently. But that's where it should be here. All right. So if you want the recipes for the bread, that's all I'm giving you, the recipes for the bread. The water, if you want the water, do a breakdown. Typically, you would want measure out 1 cup of salt for 1 gallon of water. That would give you the teardrop scenario. Is it 1 cup of salt? 1 cup of salt 1 cup of salt for a gallon of water. 1 measured cup of salt for 1 gallon of water. 1 dry cup. Mm-hmm. All right. Kalisha says, my sister's unleavened bread is delicious. Oh, great. I'm glad you guys are practicing it. Awesome. Yahweh be praised. Remember, everybody, be here for that. Get your lambs in. Go to, again, vwjministries.com. You can go to all of the areas in which we utilize to bring it. You're not in a cash-driven society. Nobody's writing checks anymore. So these are the digital places which you can bring that to. Make it your business to get that there. Do it today. Go now. Be ready for the 21st, and we're going to go from there. We'll talk about also what gets done for those items on the 22nd and the 23rd. You'll use the same pathways to get access to that as well. All righty. So that's where we are with that. And we're looking forward to you all being able to comply with the instructions that are necessary. Also, we'll be doing the times for the shofar blowing. This is previous. I'm sorry, I got the wrong schedule up there for that. But we'll be doing them. We'll be blowing the shofar and starting the feast meals for each time zone. I will be. If it is not your time zone, and you should see on Clubhouse or here on Facebook or on YouTube, and your flag is not in the mast, your flag is not in the title, don't come in. If you're not in the time, if it's not sundown on your time zone, and you see a program about Pesach starting Sunday morning, do not you enter in. Wait for your time zone. Come in on your time zone. If you're seeing a Pesach service prior to that, it's not your time zone. Don't find yourself out of compliance. We're helping those that are in other time zones while they're in compliance, blowing the shofar and walking them into their meal. Okay, everyone? All righty. And I'm hoping we've given you enough information today to deal with those thoughts. All right. What link are y'all talking about? There should be no links. What are you talking about, a link?
I had put one up there for the grid, but it's not working.
Yeah, no, yeah, we'll delete that. Just go to VWJ Ministries. Oh shoot, somebody did that. I didn't ban you. Leslie, the you just got banned by mistake. How do we get her back? How do we get Leslie back? All right, we got to work on getting Leslie back. Somehow the thing shifted when I went to go hit delete the comment, and then the screen shifted, and it ended up the next one banning you. So Leslie, we didn't mean to ban you. We need you. We need you. Don't leave us. We'll come and get you somehow. All right, so you'll be back on somehow by Sabbath. All right, so guys, stay on the VWJ Ministries, VWJ Ministries on Facebook page. If you scroll that, you'll probably get more action. I think I do a quick post on that before I do a quick post on anything else. So the recipes that you guys need will be on VWJ Ministries. It's been up there for months. We've been telling y'all about it for months, so I'm not going to worry about that. Y'all just go. It's there. We posted it 20,000 times, so go find it. It's there. We did the work for you. Just go find it. All right. Listen, I'm excited. I hope you are excited as well. And don't let anything or anybody tell you anything contrary. Grace, based on the ethnicity, sir, be careful. Okay, make sure you just based on the ethnicity alone, be careful, because that's a whole different element. That's a whole different element. All right, everybody. This is the Proceeding Word. We're so glad to have you with us. For those of you who, again, have begun to do the feast and get them ready, prepare yourselves. I'll be back tonight for sure for Sabbath study. Friday night for me, 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Let me give it to you right now. Put it on the screen so you can see it. I'll be back tonight, definitely. For said, it's going to be a very busy week. Let me say this to y'all, too, for some very selfish people out there. Give people grace when they don't get back to you, because you might be in a crisis. And though there are people who want to serve you and work to your good, to count somebody else's pockets, to count somebody else's time, to think that you know when they're supposed to do something or when they're not supposed to do something, is very selfish, and frankly, it's judgmental. Allow grace. There are people like you and me who can forget things at times. But usually when there are high functioning people who forget things, it's because there are a myriad of other things that apparently took precedent by outranking in priority that particular thing that may have should have happened. That's why we work so hard to keep a schedule here in VWJ Ministries and Darash Kingdom Ministries. And we do quite well because of all the people we serve. Our administrators, Elder Page and others, do an amazing job at getting your requests to sit with me, study with me, communicate, and have different types of sacerdotal issues accomplished through the office as your apostle and covering. But when you don't get a response back, do not assume that you're being ignored. And that's not just in this ministry, but we had a couple of other people have problems, and they were unjustly judged because they couldn't get back to the people. And if I was not there with those people going through their crisis, I wouldn't have been able to explain to the people thinking they had a right to tell this person, you should have contacted me. They couldn't contact you at that time. I'm living proof they couldn't. There was no way they could have. So people, stop thinking that you own people and you got a right to their IP or a right to them. And if they don't respond, maybe it's Elohim trying to give you a signal that he wants to talk to you. Be very careful. Because though we're all a part of one big family, judgmentalism can bring division because now you're looking at a person differently, thinking in your head they're ignoring you or blowing you off. When something outranked the priority of something that would typically have been arranged or agreed to. In some cases, it's not even been agreed to. It's just, I think if I call you, you should answer. No, you don't have that right over somebody's life. Text them, ask them how they're doing. Because then you really ask the person how they're doing when you text them or call them, and not just say how you doing because it's expected response. You'd find out how they're doing. And you may be like, you know what I'm going through, don't compare it to what you're dealing with. And I can actually look at this differently, or I can double back on this after you get through that, because that's really important. Be conscious. Be careful of being selfish because you didn't get what you wanted. Entitlement is a spirit that is very much kin to selfishness, which is a big kin to judgmentalism, which is under the bubble and auspices of covetousness. Didn't think it'd break down that far, did you? But it does. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds out of the mouth of Yahweh, who is our Elohim. Zion, we love you to life. Hope to see you again soon. Yours truly, Apostle B.W. Jones.
If you need truth, this is the place for you. Don't need to complicate it. It's best to keep it basic. Open the book, the word itself approved. He's Alpha and Omega, the answer since the early ages. What you should do is learn about the greatest. Just so you know, our door is always open. Let's study together instead of debating. Share our differences. Let love heal all that's broken.